Alright, I have in my hand here a paper that talks about all the statistics from 2008 to 2012 of how our economy has been, the U.S. economy I should say. And, you know, everyone wants to say, oh, it's the lack of jobs, it's impossible to get a job. The thing about it is, when you look at the stats, jobs have always been scarce. That is the flaw of capitalism. In order for one to succeed, someone else has to fail. It's vampirism. It's a parasitic organism. So the job market is not going to get better. It's going to fluctuate. Sure, it's going to go up and down. But at the end of the day, it's going to be somewhere around 8 to 11%, regardless of how well the economy is doing, because that is the way the market works. So what you should look at is other things, like new homes sold. Let's look at Homestead. In 2008 it was 44,000, and now in 2012 it was 33,000. So that means that less people are buying homes. Why? Because the economy sucks. But because they're not buying homes, they're not paying property taxes, which means lack of revenue. So you would think the government would say, oh, well, let's cheapen housing, you know, let's artificially cheapen the housing market since these assholes won't do it, and they can still make their money. At the same time, people still buy houses, and then they can pay a housing tax. But no, that would be too socialist. That would be too Kanye for the likes of the libertarian right. So let's move on to corporate profits. In 2008, $1.2 trillion. Then 2009, $1.4 trillion. And in 2010, $1.8 trillion. Then $1.9 trillion. And then all of a sudden, it's not listed. Why is that? What happened to transparency? But it suffices to say that corporate profits just keep gradually going up, and it's only a matter of time before they reach $2 trillion. So, knowing that, corporations are making more money, but people are not making enough to buy houses. How is that? How is it one half of society is not able to buy a home, but the other half of society, the 1%, get to make more and more money? You see the problem here? Unless you use government to enforce the economy, it's going to end badly for you. Industrial production has gone up. Labor productivity has gone up. So with the increase of labor and production of roads and other utilities, you would think the economy would get better. But no, because corporations are hoarding all the money. Corporations are the ones that make all this product. You know, the U.S. economy is 80% free market. That's when you break down the numbers of the amount of government jobs versus private sector jobs, it's 80 to 20%. And you can assume that because of that, you may as well just say, well, the market is 80% privatized, and we are suffering because of it. Now, the right wants to say that that's because of the 20% government. But wouldn't it be the rational response to say it's the 80%? It's the one that's heavier that is causing the damages, not the public sector. So then we look at prices. Overall inflation is 2.3%, which is almost half less than what it was in 2008. Which means under President Obama, inflation has dropped by nearly 50%. So you can't say that Obama is trying to reduce the dollar to nothingness. If anything, the dollar has more value than it ever did under President Bush, and has in a long time. Food and beverage prices, however, have increased. For a while they were cheap. When Obama first got into office, they reduced significantly. But then all of a sudden they went back to what they were in 2008. In 2008 they were like 4.8% up, and now it's something like 3.9%. So clearly the food and beverage associations that sell us the things we need to survive have decided to, raise the price. Why? Inflation is down. There's no reason to. You do most of this shit abroad. You produce Coca-Cola in third world countries, and while they suffer and die and starve so that we in the first world can have Coca-Cola, you're gonna fucking tell me that you cannot cheapen the price of Coca-Cola when clearly you're not losing any profits and you exploit the third world and everything is handed to you, but still you need to charge us more money because, oh, the economy's bad. The economy's not bad for you. It's bad for us. Gasoline prices have pretty much stayed the same. They're slightly more expensive, but not by a whole lot. So people bitch about gas nonstop. What I'm noticing here is that people love to bitch about the economy being bad, the economy getting worse. It isn't. It's always been bad. It's always been worse. This is a stagnation. Clearly, in 4 years' time, not a whole lot has changed. Maybe a few decimals here and there. But essentially, the rich are still getting richer, the poor are still getting poorer, and nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see the fact that it is despicable, and it is economic insanity to let a minority of people just accumulate wealth and not hold any accountability for it. While they get to accumulate more wealth, they are not bound by an agreement to the country's standards to pay back and give back for making that extreme wealth. Surely the people that are powerful and influential and get to live in mansions and fuck bitches every day should pay a little more. Should, more so than the common man, have to give back to society. You don't need to be a communist to understand that. But apparently that's what it takes. It's like Nietzsche said, you cannot fight radical beliefs with moderate ones. You have to be equally or greater radical. So that's why I tout communism just outright. I know it's not a popular opinion. I know people are still indoctrinated under the Red Scare. But you're not going to win this fight by coming at them with very moderate reform. Clearly that's not worked so far. The Democrats have been trying to do that forever, and it hasn't worked. Things are just as bad as they ever were. And that's what I'm trying to get across to you here. People are going to tell you that, oh, the economy's going to get so bad, we're going to be in fucking bread lines, and there's going to be anarchy. It's going to be like Katrina was, and shit like that. That's what Glenn Beck would have you believe. I don't think that. I think we're just going to live as we are today. And if you ask me, that is worse than if we were to become Katrina. Because if we were to become Katrina, at least then there would be social upheaval. At least then there would be radical change. There would be a revolution. We're not going to get a revolution. We're just going to whimper and die. Eventually, we're all going to grow old. We don't have any money. We're fucking living in our cars or whatever. And we're just going to drop dead. And the rich are going to continue to live up the high life, exploiting the natural resources, exploiting the labor of the third and first world alike. Everybody's their fucking bitch, and we're expected to pay good money we cannot afford to pay, for basic living essentials, for entertainment, for the things that keep us sane. People are entitled to all these things. Not just healthcare, not just food, but even entertainment. If it were up to me, I would nationalize the video game industry, because I believe that entertainment plays just as an integral role of human health as food, water, hospitals, schools, things like that. The human psyche is too complex and too, multifaceted to suggest that they can live on room and board alone. They cannot. They cannot live on just bread and, having a free operation and things like that. They need stimulation. They need a purpose. They need value. And I don't mean value as in financial value. I don't mean value as in objective value that, yes, you're hungry, here's food, there you go. I mean intricate value. I mean value of the spirit, of the principle, where they feel like they're moving forward. And you do not need the profit incentive to do that. If people were to combine their forces, if people were to be unified under a common good, you would not need the profit motive to get them to move forward and create progress. people would naturally want to be part of the winning team. But the rich don't want you to do that. The rich do not want you to see that answer, because that would cut in on them, because then we would execute them. We would imprison them, we would humiliate them, we would do all sorts of nasty shit to them, rather than the millions and millions of people in jail right now. Our prison system possesses 25% of the world's population. Think about that. 25% of the world's population is in the American prison system, and roughly 33 to 40% of the American population has at some point been in prison or is in prison currently. I would go as far as to say you are very unlikely not to have a felony on your record, which is ridiculous because most jobs won't hire you if you have a felony. Where do you think the job crisis comes in? So let's say almost 1/2 of the entire population has a federal offense on their record, and then you're going to say, oh, you cannot work here. That's fucking terrorism. That's corporate terrorism. And you need to see that. This is costing you. This is the reason your life sucks. This is the reason you're going to die early in life. This is the reason you're miserable. This is the reason you are single, you're unhealthy, you're tired, you're overworked, you have all these shames and regrets, and you never did anything with your life. This is the reason. It's these people. It's these 1%. And you know what? A large portion of that has to do with moderators controlling the internet sector, so we cannot communicate this, so we cannot share this with other people, and so that we can organize and do something about it. They are the first line of defense of the 1%. The moderators are keeping us silent while this shit goes on, while this terrorism goes on and is killing us. It's literally killing us. So that's really all I have to say for